In a busy city, one small mistake can turn a quiet night into chaos. A single bite, a stumble in the dark, and suddenly everyone is in trouble. I'm Al-Hakawati, the legendary storyteller, and tonight I'll take you through a tale of accidents, confusion, and near disasters. A story that begins with a laugh in the street and ends in a way no one expected. Long ago, in a faraway part of China, there was a tailor. He was good at his work, and he loved having fun and meeting people. One evening, he and his wife were walking through the busy streets when they saw a small crowd gathering around a corner. In the middle of it all was a hunchback. He looked a bit unusual. People couldn't help but laugh when they saw him, even if they had been having a bad day. He moved in a funny, clumsy way, but there was something kind and harmless about him that made people smile. The tailor and his wife smiled at each other and decided to take him home. They invited the hunchback to come home with them for the night. The hunchback, happy to be treated kindly, agreed and followed them. Night fell, and the tailor came back from the market with some fish. The three of them sat down to eat. The hunchback was excited and didn't eat very carefully. The tailor's wife gave him a big bite, and it had a small, hard bone that got stuck. Just like that, he went still. The hunchback was gone, as if fate had decided it. The tailor froze, terrified. He and his wife realized something. He had died in their house. What if someone saw him like this and blamed them for killing him? They couldn't just leave him there. His wife quickly came up with a plan. They wrapped him in a silk cloth and carried him through the quiet streets, making it look like a sick child on the way to the doctor. She murmured softly about pretend symptoms, so anyone passing by would believe it, and it worked. Nobody stopped them. Finally, they reached the house of a doctor. A young servant girl opened the door, and the tailor's wife gave her a small coin so the doctor would come and check on the child. While the girl went upstairs, the tailor carefully leaned the hunchback against the wall and slipped away into the night. The doctor saw the coin and hurried downstairs in the dark. In his rush, he tripped over the hunchback, and the body slid to the bottom of the stairs. And as the hunchback tumbled, maybe your finger will tumble too, right over to that subscribe button. For a moment, the doctor froze. Sure, he'd killed the man. Shock and fear took over, and he didn't know what to do. The doctor and his wife quickly realized they could not wait until morning. If anyone found the body in their house, they would be blamed. They had to act before trouble found them. They decided to lift the hunchback onto the roof and lower him into the house of their neighbor, the inspector. Dogs and cats often entered that house at night, searching for food. The couple believed that if they left the body there, the animals would eat it and leave nothing behind. They thought that by morning, no one would find a body, and no one would blame them. They carried the hunchback to the roof, held him by his arms and legs, and lowered him until he rested against the wall. Then they left quietly, hoping the night would hide what they had done. The inspector came home late that night. He opened the door and stepped inside, holding a small candle to see in the dark. As he moved through the house, he noticed a man standing quietly in the corner. At once he thought, this must be the thief. For a long time, meat and food had gone missing from his house. He had blamed the cats and dogs, but now, seeing a man there, he was sure he had finally caught the one responsible. Without stopping to think, the inspector grabbed a heavy hammer and struck the man on the chest. The body didn't move. That's when his heart dropped. He leaned closer and realized the man was already dead. Terror rushed through him. He was sure he had just killed someone with his own hands. When he noticed the man was a hunchback, his fear only grew. Nothing made sense anymore. He knew one thing for sure. He could not stay in the house with a dead body. Before the night ended and people began to wake, he lifted the body onto his shoulders and hurried out into the dark streets. He kept walking until he reached the edge of the market, where everything was quiet and empty. At the entrance of a narrow alley, he set the body against a shop wall and stepped back. Then he hurried away, hoping that the further he went, the safer he would be. Not long after, another man entered the market. He was a broker who worked for the king, and he was very drunk. He had been out all night and barely remembered that morning prayers were near. He stumbled through the empty market, swaying from side to side, barely watching where his feet were taking him. When he reached the narrow alley, he stopped near the body, thinking no one was there. Then he noticed a figure standing in the shadows, leaning against the wall. Earlier that night, his turban had been stolen, and in his drunken mind, suspicion came quickly. He was sure this was the same thief. Without thinking, he struck the hunchback, knocking him to the ground. Still angry and confused, he kept hitting him, never realizing the man was already dead. The noise echoed through the alley and caught the attention of the market watchman, who ran over and found the broker bent over the body. The watchman pulled the broker away and looked at the man on the ground. It didn't take long to see that the hunchback was dead. Panic set in immediately. The broker was arrested, his hands tied, and they took him straight to the house of the wali, which is kind of a local judge. By now, the alcohol had worn off and fear had taken its place. He sat there, trembling, while the hunchback's body stayed nearby. The night seemed to stretch forever, as everyone waited for morning and the judge's decision. When morning came, the wali gave his decision. The broker was declared the killer, and the order was given to hang him. The executioner announced the crime to the crowd, set up the gallows, and brought the broker forward. A rope was placed around his neck, and everything was ready. Just as the execution was about to happen, the inspector pushed through the crowd. He couldn't stay silent any longer. He had already felt guilty, thinking he had killed the hunchback, and now he didn't want another person to die because of him. So he confessed that he had struck the hunchback in his house, believing him to be a thief. With that admission, the broker was freed, and all eyes turned to the inspector. The rope was taken from the broker's neck and placed around the inspector's instead. Just then, another man came rushing through the crowds. It was the doctor. He admitted that the hunchback's trouble had actually started in his house. The tailor and his wife had brought the man there, saying he was sick. After they left, the doctor went downstairs in the dark, tripped over the hunchback on the stairs, and accidentally caused him to fall and die. Out of fear, the doctor and his wife moved the body to the roof and lowered it into the house of the inspector next door. Later, when the inspector found the body, he believed he had killed the thief. The crowd stood in silence as the story came out, each man stepping forward, trying to protect the others by taking the blame himself. After hearing the doctor's confession, the wali ordered the inspector to be freed. The rope was taken from his neck, and this time put around the doctor's. The executioner readied himself once more, looking a little tired of all this back and forth. Just then, the tailor pushed his way through the crowd. He stepped forward and admitted that the whole mess had actually started in his house. He told how the night before, he had met the hunchback in the streets, drunk and singing at the top of his lungs, and invited him home. They sat down to eat, and while the hunchback was swallowing a bite of food, it got stuck in his throat, and that was it. He was gone, just like that. Panicked, the tailor and his wife decided to hide what had happened. They carried the body to the doctor's house, pretending the man was sick. When the doctor later tripped over him in the dark, he thought he had caused the death. From then on, fear passed from one person to another. with everyone trying to avoid blame. The tailor stepped forward and took full responsibility, asking that the doctor be set free. The wali was astonished. He could hardly believe how one small accident had passed through so many hands, bringing each person to the edge of death. Still, a confession was a confession. He ordered the doctor freed and the tailor taken in his place. The executioner, looking tired and grumbling under his breath, carried out the order. Once again, the rope went around a new neck, and the crowd held its breath. Would this be the time someone finally meet the gallows? That was what happened to all those people. But the hunchback himself, well, his story had a surprise. He wasn't a stranger at all. He was the king's very own jester, a man the king loved and could hardly bear to be without. That night, the hunchback had drunk a little too much and wandered off from the palace. He never came back. The next day, when he was still missing, the king asked what had happened. Only then did the shocking truth reach the palace. The hunchback was dead, and several men had almost been hanged over his death, each one thinking they were to blame. The king quickly ordered everyone involved to come to him. The king's helper ran to the wali and stopped the execution just in time. Soon, the tailor, the doctor, the broker, and the inspector were all there, and the hunchback's body came with them. The wali told the whole story from start to finish. There was no need to repeat every detail. The king listened quietly, following each turn of the story. When it was over, he shook his head in disbelief. One small accident, all in a single night, and so many people had almost lost their lives. He said the whole affair was so strange. It should be written down, so it would never be forgotten. Then he looked around and asked if anyone had ever heard a story stranger than that of the hunchback. Just then, the broker stepped forward and told the king that something even stranger had happened to him. The king listened carefully, curious to hear what it was. And so, what started with one small accident became a night no one in the city would ever forget. Next, we will hear the broker's tale and judge for ourselves whether it truly is stranger still. If you enjoyed this mess of mistakes, make sure you stick around. There are plenty more twists waiting just ahead.